Not all royal bonds stand the test of time. Prince William and his cousin Zara Tindall were once inseparable, growing up side by side in the royal spotlight. But as years passed, something changed. Was it duty, family politics, or an unspoken rift that pulled them apart? Their story isn't just about royal titles. It's about loyalty, pressure, and the unseen forces shaping their relationship. Stay with us as we uncover the truth behind their fading connection. Their once unbreakable childhood bond. Long before the weight of royal duty separated them, Prince William and Zara Tindall were more than just cousins. They were best friends. Growing up in the British royal family meant that their childhoods were anything but ordinary. But for William and Zara, those early years were filled with laughter, adventure, and an inseparable bond that made them feel more like siblings than distant relatives. Born just a year apart, William in 1982 and Zara in 1981, the two spent much of their childhood together. Their families were closely connected, with Prince Charles, William's father, and Princess Anne, Zara's mother, being siblings. Despite the rigid structure of royal life, their parents ensured they had a sense of normalcy, at least in their early years. Summers were often spent at Balmoral Castle in Scotland, where the cousins would ride horses, play games, and explore the vast royal estate together. At public events, their bond was evident. They were often seen side by side, whispering and giggling in the midst of formal royal occasions. One of the key reasons for their close friendship was their shared experience of growing up in a family where duty always came first. As members of the most scrutinized monarchy in the world, both understood the expectations placed upon them, yet there was a major difference between them. While William was being carefully molded for his future as king, Zara was given the rare privilege of freedom. Unlike William, she was not born with a royal title, a decision made by her mother, Princess Anne, to give her children a more normal upbringing. For years, this distinction didn't seem to matter. Zara and William remained close, their childhood bond seemingly unbreakable. But as they grew older, the realities of their vastly different destinies began to take hold, setting them on separate paths that would eventually reshape their relationship forever. The key difference: duty versus freedom. As William and Zara stepped into adulthood, the stark contrast in their lives became impossible to ignore. William was bound by royal duty from birth, every aspect of his life meticulously planned to prepare him for his eventual role as king. His education, public appearances, and personal choices were all scrutinized by the media and the royal establishment. In contrast, Zara had the freedom to forge her own path, largely free from public expectation. William's life followed a strict and predetermined course. He attended prestigious institutions such as Eton College, where his every move was observed by the press. After completing his education, he enrolled at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, where he met his future wife, Catherine Middleton. But even in his university years, William was never truly free. His relationship, his friendships, and his career choices were all shaped by the reality that one day he would be king. Zara's life, however, was refreshingly different. Without the burden of royal expectations, she was able to pursue her passions. From an early age, she showed a remarkable talent for equestrian sports, a passion that was encouraged by her mother, Princess Anne. Unlike William, whose future was already mapped out, Zara had the flexibility to choose her own path. She attended the University of Exeter, where she studied equine physiotherapy, and later went on to become one of Britain's most successful equestrians, winning an Olympic silver medal at the London Games in 2012. But while Zara enjoyed a sense of freedom that William never could, their differing paths inevitably created a growing divide between them. The days of carefree childhood play were over, replaced by a reality where William's time was increasingly consumed by royal responsibilities, while Zara's life revolved around her sporting career and personal ambitions. Despite their differences, they still shared a deep bond. But as the years went on, the weight of royal duty began to pull them further apart. What had once been an effortless friendship now required effort to maintain, a challenge that would only become greater with time. The Queen's favoritism. Was Zara the favorite? Throughout the royal family, it was no secret that Queen Elizabeth had a deep affection for all of her grandchildren. but among them Zara held a unique place in her heart. Their shared love for horses played a significant role in their close relationship, and many royal insiders believed that Zara was one of the Queen's favorites. From a young age, Zara demonstrated a natural talent for equestrian sports, a passion she inherited from both her mother and her grandmother. Queen Elizabeth, a lifelong horse enthusiast, took great pride in Zara's achievements and was often seen at her equestrian events, cheering her on from the sidelines. Unlike William, whose interactions with the Queen were often framed by royal duty and protocol, Zara enjoyed a more relaxed and personal relationship with her grandmother. This difference in treatment was not necessarily a sign of favoritism, but rather a reflection of the roles they played within the monarchy. William's interactions with the Queen were centered around preparation for his future as king. Their conversations often revolved around matters of state, responsibility, and the future of the monarchy. In contrast, Zara's relationship with her grandmother was more personal, rooted in shared hobbies and genuine affection rather than royal obligation. While William never publicly expressed any resentment over Zara's close bond with the Queen, some royal observers have speculated that it may have contributed to the gradual distance between them. Unlike Zara, who had the freedom to be herself around her grandmother, William was always expected to maintain a certain level of formality, even in private. But despite their differing relationships with the Queen, William and Zara remained close during their early adult years. However, as their responsibilities grew and their lives took them in different directions, the bond that once seemed unshakable slowly began to fade. And as time went on, an even greater challenge would test their relationship, a challenge that neither of them could have predicted. The death of Princess Diana, a turning point. If there was ever a moment that changed Prince William's life forever, it was the tragic passing of his mother, Princess Diana, in late summer of 1997. William, just 15 years old at the time, was forced to grieve under the relentless gaze of the public, the weight of expectation, the unyielding scrutiny of the press, and the loss of the person he loved most, all collided in a way no teenager should ever have to endure. It was during this painful chapter that Zara Tindall, then still Zara Phillips, played a crucial role in offering him the support only family could provide. Zara was one of the few people in William's life who truly understood the emotional toll of being royal without treating him like a future king. Unlike palace aides or distant relatives, she did not see him as a symbol of the monarchy, but as a grieving boy who had lost his mother in the most public and heartbreaking way imaginable. In those early years following Diana's death, Zara and her brother Peter remained a quiet yet vital presence in William's life, offering him an escape from the suffocating expectations placed upon him. For a while, their bond seemed unshaken by the tragedy. In fact, it may have even grown stronger. The two cousins were often seen together at royal gatherings, and there was a warmth between them that spoke of shared grief and unwavering support. At events like the Queen's Golden Jubilee in 2002, William and Zara appeared side by side, laughing and enjoying each other's company, a reminder that despite the pressures of royal life, they still had each other. But time has a way of shifting relationships. As William stepped further into his royal duties and Zara pursued her career in equestrian sports, the dynamic between them began to change. Their childhood connection remained, but the paths they were on were now leading them in opposite directions, one toward the throne and the other toward a life of independence. The royal family's growing expectations. As the years passed, the roles that William and Zara played within the royal family became more distinct, and with that distinction came a widening gap between them. By the time William entered adulthood in the early 2000s, it was clear that his life would never be his own. Every decision he made, from his education to his romantic relationships, was carefully scrutinized and strategically planned to align with the expectations of his future role as king. Zara, on the other hand, was able to carve out a life entirely on her own terms. She had no official royal duties, no rigid expectations, and no reason to follow the carefully structured path that William had to adhere to. While William was making high-profile appearances, Zara was traveling the world as a competitive equestrian. competing in prestigious events and building her own brand outside of the royal family. Yet despite their differing paths, their relationship remained intact. At royal weddings, including the marriage of Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles in 2005, William and Zara were often spotted in deep conversation, their connection seemingly unaffected by their diverging lives. However, as William's responsibilities increased, his availability decreased. The once frequent family gatherings where he and Zara could catch up became rarer, replaced by official engagements and state visits that demanded more and more of his time. The royal family had long been built on a foundation of duty, and William had no choice but to uphold that tradition. Unlike Zara, who had the freedom to decide where she would live, what career she would pursue, and how much public attention she would allow into her life, William had little control over his own destiny. The very nature of their different positions meant that their time together became less frequent. Even so, there was no obvious animosity between them, just the slow but inevitable drift that comes when two people lead vastly different lives. But while duty and career paths may have created some distance, nothing tested their relationship quite like the royal family's most publicized feud of the 21st century. The Prince Harry controversy, Zara caught in the middle. Few royal scandals have been as explosive as Prince Harry's departure from the monarchy in early 2020. Dubbed Megxit by the media, the decision by Harry and his wife Meghan Markle to step back from royal duties sent shockwaves through the family. For Prince William, this was more than just a family dispute. It was a betrayal. His younger brother, the person who was meant to stand beside him as he prepared for the throne, had chosen a different path, leaving William to shoulder the burden of royal responsibility alone. Zara, however, found herself in a uniquely complicated position. Unlike William, who had to maintain the monarchy's image, Zara had no such obligation. She remained friendly with both William and Harry, refusing to publicly take sides in the feud that had divided the royal family. At events like the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in 2022, she was seen warmly interacting with Harry and Meghan, laughing and engaging in conversation, while William kept his distance. This created an interesting dynamic, one where Zara was free to navigate the situation on her own terms, while William was bound by the expectations of the crown. Many wondered if Zara's continued friendship with Harry strained her relationship with William. After all, William was one of the strongest critics of his brother's decision to leave the royal family, and his cold public demeanor toward Harry was widely documented. However, Zara's choice to remain neutral did not necessarily mean she and William had grown apart entirely. If anything, it demonstrated the fundamental difference in their positions. Zara had the privilege of personal autonomy, while William had to maintain the image of a future king. Their interactions at royal events became more formal, their once effortless conversations now marked by the weight of responsibility and unspoken tension. While there was no outright feud between William and Zara, their differing responses to the family crisis further emphasized just how far their lives had diverged. And as William's role in the monarchy continued to grow, the gap between them would only widen. William's growing role as future king. As Prince William stepped further into his responsibilities within the monarchy, the time he once had for personal relationships dwindled. When his grandmother Queen Elizabeth passed away in September of 2022, the shift in royal duties became more apparent than ever. With King Charles now on the throne, William was officially next in line, and the expectations placed upon him became even heavier. While he had always known that his future would be defined by duty, the reality of it was now unavoidable. For Zara, life remained largely unchanged. She continued to live independently with her husband, former rugby star Mike Tindall, and their 3 children, focusing on her equestrian career and brand endorsements. Unlike William, whose role within the royal family was becoming more defined, Zara had no obligations to the monarchy beyond attending major family events. While William was preparing for his eventual kingship, Zara was enjoying a relatively private and flexible life, traveling for competitions and raising her family outside the royal bubble. As William took on more public appearances, state duties, and official royal engagements, the distance between him and Zara became more noticeable. They were no longer just cousins who grew up together. They were now living in two completely different worlds. While Zara had always been known for her relaxed and informal demeanor, William had to maintain a carefully curated public image. The shift in their relationship wasn't necessarily personal. It was the unavoidable result of William's increasing responsibilities. He could no longer casually spend time with family members the way he once had. Every move he made was monitored. Every relationship he maintained was scrutinized. While Zara still attended royal gatherings, her interactions with William became more formal, shaped by the structured nature of his position. Despite their growing distance, there was no sign of hostility between them. But as William's life became more rigid and controlled, and Zara's remained free and independent, it became clear that their once close bond was no longer what it used to be. And some wondered if palace politics had played a role in their quiet drift apart. Royal politics. Did palace power plays create a rift? The British monarchy is not just a family, it is an institution, one governed by traditions, expectations, and at times quiet but powerful political maneuvering. As King Charles assumed the throne, a major shift occurred within the royal household. The king made it clear that he intended to streamline the monarchy, focusing on a smaller, more cost-efficient group of working royals. This shift meant that non-working royals like Zara and her husband Mike would have even less involvement in the public duties of the royal family. For William, this change meant more responsibility. As the newly appointed Prince of Wales, he had to take on a larger role in supporting his father, ensuring that the monarchy remained stable during the transition of power. While he had always been aware that this moment would come, the weight of it was now a daily reality. His focus had to be on his role within the firm, and that left little time for maintaining personal relationships outside of the immediate royal circle. Zara, on the other hand, had never been part of the monarchy's official working structure, and this new shift only reinforced that fact. While she had never shown any interest in taking on royal duties, some speculated that the increasing divide between working and non-working royals had added another layer of distance between her and William. Was their relationship a casualty of royal politics? Some royal observers believed that it was simply the natural outcome of their different paths in life. Zara had the privilege of stepping away from the royal world whenever she wanted, while William had no such option. Over time, their lives became too different to maintain the effortless bond they once shared. While there was no clear-cut fallout, it was evident that William and Zara's interactions were no longer as frequent or as warm as they had been in their younger years. And yet, despite this distance, some believed that Zara might still have a role to play in William's future. Is Zara one of William's last trusted allies? Even as their interactions became less frequent, many royal watchers believed that Zara remained one of William's most trusted allies within the family. Unlike many members of the royal circle, Zara had no reason to compete for power or influence. She had her own successful career, financial independence, and a life outside the constraints of royal duty. This made her one of the few people in the family who could offer William support without any hidden agendas. Reports have suggested that despite their growing distance, Zara and William still share a quiet understanding. At major royal events, such as the coronation of King Charles in May of 2023, Zara was seen engaging with William in a relaxed and familiar way, a contrast to the more formal interactions he had with other royals. Unlike some family members who had become more distanced due to internal conflicts, Zara had never publicly criticized the monarchy or the responsibilities that came with it. Some experts believe that if William ever needed an ally within the family, Zara would be one of the first to step forward. While she has never sought a formal role within the institution, she has always remained close to its key figures, attending major events and supporting the family when needed. Her husband, Mike Tindall, has also been known for his friendly, down-to-earth relationship with senior royals, further strengthening her connection to William. But with William's increasing responsibilities and Zara's ongoing commitment to her independent life, one question remains. Could they ever return to the close relationship they once had? Or has time and duty permanently reshaped their bond into something more distant and formal? Could they ever rekindle their close relationship? With the passing of time, relationships evolve, and for William and Zara, their once unbreakable bond has naturally shifted into something different. While they may never return to the carefree closeness of their childhood years, it's not impossible for them to maintain a meaningful relationship in the future. Family gatherings still provide opportunities for them to reconnect. Christmas at Sandringham, Trooping the Color, and other royal events bring the family together, allowing them to interact, even if only briefly. However, the nature of their relationship now depends on how much effort they are willing and able to put into maintaining it. For William, the challenge is time. As his responsibilities continue to grow, his ability to invest in personal relationships outside of his immediate family will only become more difficult. For Zara, the challenge is relevance. As a non-working royal, she has little reason to be involved in William's life beyond family occasions. The real question is whether they want to rekindle their relationship. Unlike royal feuds that have been publicly exposed, William and Zara's dynamic has always remained private, which means any reconnection would likely happen behind closed doors. If they choose to prioritize their bond, they may find ways to remain close despite their different paths. But if they continue as they are now, attending family events, exchanging polite conversations, but never truly reconnecting, their once deep friendship may simply fade into the background, remembered as a childhood closeness that couldn't survive the weight of royal duty.